Hi. So in this video, we're going to talk about reading food labels. Why is it important to read food labels? Well, reading food labels allows you to choose options that best align with your goals. It also understands why foods are more nutritious, and it allows you to change your food choices depending on your goals. But sometimes we make mistakes when it comes to reading labels, or we don't read them at all. That's one of your biggest mistakes, is to buy a product and not read the label and see what the calories are and what the ingredients are in that food. Sometimes we only look for one or two things on the label and we ignore something like the serving size, or we only read the numbers and we ignore the ingredients. Again, the whole label tells you a lot. So it's important to understand everything that's on that label and what it can mean for you. So reading labels, so we're going to go through a sample label and we've kind of broken it down here. So first off, the first part are your serving size, right? So at the very top, you're going to see serving size. So you'll see how many servings are in the container, and then what a serving size is. For this example, it's 4 servings per container, and 1 cup is a serving size. Notice the grams next to it, because that's what we use when we weigh and measure our food, is we use grams or ounces. We try to stay away from cups and tablespoons and things like that. So your servings, excuse me, per container signifies how many servings are in the whole container. All the numbers on the nutrient list that you'll see below the serving part of the label are for 1 serving. So to find out how many calories or macros, multiply the nutrient number by the number of servings per container. So in this example, there are 280 servings per container. You're going to see that below. It'll say calories, right? 280 calories per serving, but there are 4 servings in the container. So that means that the total container is 1,120 calories. This is important if you pick up something that is, let's say a carton of ice cream. All right. So 1 cup of ice cream doesn't look like very much. If you eat the whole, but it has 280 calories, you eat the whole container, now you've had 1,120 calories, which for most of us is more than half of the calories that we need to live off a day in 1 container of ice cream. So keep that in mind. The serving size is just suggested. All right. So always use grams or ounces. Don't use cups or tablespoons. Use a food scale to be more accurate. So when you're figuring out what you're going to eat out of that container, make sure you use ounces or grams. Do not assume that just because the serving size says what it says that you should eat that much. Serving sizes are often very underestimated. And the numbers on the nutrients label below, again, show information for 1 suggested serving. So you've got your calories are 280, right? If you eat more than 1 serving, you have to do the math. So the serving size on the label says 1 serving is 280 calories. It's also 227 grams. So when I weigh out my portion, it was 345 grams. So I took that container and I didn't take a cup out. I took my scale out and I put that food on the scale and I measured out 345 grams. Well, 345 divided by 227 is 1.5. So now you have 1.5 servings of that food. So 1.5 servings is 1.5 times 280. That's 420 calories. So you can't just put in your MyFitnessPal, if you're tracking it, that you did 1 serving of this food and then it only gives you 280 calories. What you want to do is you want to put 1.5 servings of that food, because you took 345 grams, not 227. Gets a little complicated, but that's how it works. That's why it's important to always stick with 1 way of measuring your food. And then you just kind of got to do that math. So when you put 1.5 of that food into MyFitnessPal, it should give you 420 calories. All right. So underneath all of our servings and our calories are all the nutrients. So first you get your total fat. Again, that's total fat in 1 serving of food. So in this serving of food, you have total of 9 grams of fat. The total fat refers to saturated and unsaturated and trans fat. So there may be a breakdown of each of these, but the total fat is those all put together. So generally, unsaturated fats are considered healthier than saturated, but there is research still being done on this. Trans fats are terrible for you. So if you see that this has trans fat, and some labels do tend to make it very clear that they're talking about trans fat, especially if it's 0, because they know that trans fat is bad for you. So if their label shows 0 grams of trans fat, they're going to let you know about it, because then you might think that's a healthier food. So anyway, but you do want to avoid trans fat at all costs. You also have cholesterol. Cholesterol is not to be feared unless you have been told to control your cholesterol intake by a doctor. Sodium, again, unless you've been told by a doctor that you have to limit it for medical reasons, you don't really have to avoid it. It can cause problems if you overconsume it, but don't go out of your way to avoid it. All right. And then you've got your total carbohydrates. Again, can't reiterate enough. What you see on that label is for 1 serving of food, but remember that you have to make sure that what serving you're taking actually equals the grams that it says the servings are. Otherwise, you got to do that math. So the total carbs refers to natural carbohydrates in the food plus fiber plus sugar. Dietary fiber is a subcategory of carbs and comes from plants, which help regulate your digestive system and do aid in you feeling fuller. All right, so keep that in mind when you're looking at that carb number. Sugar is the devil, right? Added sugar. Manufacturers add sugar to make you want to eat it and eat it and eat it again. So you have to be very, very, very careful about when you are choosing foods with added sugar. Trust me, I have just as many sugar cravings as anyone else. This is a hard one for me because I do like sugar. So making making you eat 2, 3, or 4 servings of that food because you like it so much. Like the example with the ice cream, 1 cup ice cream don't seem like very much until you eat the whole carton and you've gotten all that added sugar. So when you do that often enough, what does he say? Hello, new belt, right? So we want to make sure that we're staying away as often as possible from added sugar. It comes in so many different forms: cane, high fructose corn syrup, brown rice syrup. But the first thing you should check on your nutrition label is to see that the first ingredient or one of the first ingredients isn't sugar. So you want to make sure that if there is sugar, it's just a little bit, okay? It's not bad for you, but like natural sugar isn't bad for you, but manufactured sugar is. So sugars from honey and pure maple syrup and molasses, they are good for you. But again, you don't want to just consume high quantities of those. Okay. They're good as an alternative sweetener, as opposed to manufactured sugar. Excuse me. So protein, again, total amount of protein in 1 serving. This is the second thing you should check on the nutrition label. All right. So first is calories, serving size, and calories per serving size, and protein. Then you've got your vitamins and minerals, which are whole natural foods, provide a host of vitamins and minerals. If it comes from the earth and hasn't been touched by many hands, it's probably good for you. So the less something has been processed, the better it is for you. So if you pick it out of the ground, it's better than if you buy it in a can. Okay. So then you've got your ingredient list. And sometimes they can be very overwhelming, but they are listed in order of prominence in the food. So the closer to the beginning of the list, the higher the percentage of that ingredient is in the food. So you want to shoot for small numbers of ingredients. So a giant ingredient label is probably something you want to avoid. Try to find the ingredient labels that have just a few ingredients. And that means that they're a little bit more natural. You're going to find a lot less scientific looking sounding words in your ingredient label when there's fewer in there. So why does it matter? Well, you're trying to stay, like I said, try to stay away from the synthetic ingredients that you keep eating because they do strange things to your body. So for example, it takes about 5 large potatoes to make a family-sized bag of Lay's potato chips. It's easy to eat the whole bag, but it's really hard to eat 5 large potatoes. So Frito-Lay adds extra ingredients to block the I'm full sensors that go off in your brain. So suddenly eating 5 potatoes isn't all that hard. Something to think about, right? Humans aren't meant to eat that junk. We are not built to process synthetic ingredients. And so they're foreign in our body, and our bodies don't know what to do with them. So they can actually cause digestive issues, allergic reactions, even illness and disease. Chronic inflammation in our body can come from those highly processed foods. So avoid them at all costs. And again, super important, check those nutrition labels. Have a great day.